The year? Somewhere between the Great Depression and the death of dignity. While families scraped for bread flour and shelter, Rutherford strolled into Beth Sarim like royalty returning from exile. Except the kingdom was made of stucco and watchtower dollars. Judge Joseph Franklin Rutherford was out here riding high, literally and figuratively, in gifted Cadillacs, courtesy of the brethren. And by brethren, I mean underpaid believers and overworked followers, just hanging on to the hopes they were promised in a future that never came. Now, some people who ask too many questions, might be wondering, weren't there rumors of children disappearing, secret properties, private residences with round-the-clock staff? But see, the judge didn't hear all that. What he did hear was the purr of that engine as he rolled up to Beth Sarim with the Holy Spirit riding shotgun. Jehovah provides, especially when you're the one interpreting his will via typewriter. Beth Sarim wasn't just a mansion in San Diego. It was a theatrical set for the end of the world, built in 1929 for the return of the princes, but maintained for something far more earthly: the ego, excess, and operations of Judge Joseph Franklin Rutherford. Let's be clear. This wasn't some quiet cottage waiting for King David and Abraham to show up. This was a year-round watchtower outpost, funded by the sales of the Watchtower publications by the faithful Jehovah's Witnesses, and it was staffed full-time. Housekeepers, groundskeepers, and maybe even nannies. Bonnie Boyd, Rutherford's live-in assistant slash stenographer slash secretary, and later the third wheel in the most awkward love triangle in Watchtower history, testified under oath there were always people living there even when she wasn't. You know, nothing screams we're totally innocent like publishing a bold-faced disclaimer in your own magazine calling whistleblowers unreliable persons. And what were those unreliable people saying? That Beth Sarim was being enlarged as a place of security. And the Watchtower's response? Absolutely not one word of truth. And when asked by a judge in court, suppose the Japs were to level that property during the air raid, what would happen then? William P. Heath Jr., Watchtower board member, says, "We trust the Lord for protection." But, plot twist, they weren't enlarging Beth Sarim. They were building a whole new fortified property. Just down the canyon, Beth Shan, purchased by William P. Heath Jr., Watchtower board member, and then he trusted the property to the Watchtower Society. It wasn't an expansion. It was a relocation, a reset, a bunker, a baby farm. And if anyone asked too many questions, you should be spreading the kingdom message, not the false imaginations of others. That quote didn't age well, huh? Then, Beth Shan, a 10-bedroom compound, quietly built in 1939, 10 years after Beth Sarim. This one came with a bomb shelter, tunnels, panic rooms. The Watchtower spun it as a wartime precaution. But ask yourself, What kind of spiritual publishing house builds bunkers, tunnels, and sealed caves while preaching divine protection? Let's talk about Rutherford for just a second. He wasn't a spiritual leader. He was the original Trump. He used the Watchtower publications like social media, firing people by name, mocking ex-members as vomit drinkers, turning every opposition into divine conspiracy. He kicked out his entire board in 1917 and installed loyalists. He drank himself into fits while writing doctrinal screeds. He lived in luxury while telling witnesses they couldn't take vacations or buy birthday gifts. And like Trump, he saw any critique as betrayal, and any betrayal as war. When he died in 1942, the surrounding neighborhoods and San Diego legal systems refused to let the Watchtower Society bury Rutherford on either property. Turns out, nobody wanted a cult shrine in their backyard, so they shipped him back east. But the two Watchtower homes, they stayed occupied for 6 more years. Both Beth Sarim and Beth Shan remained active until 1948, quietly operating under the radar, not as vacation homes, but as assets. Assets full of secrets, records, people, and children. Secret children. Princess Bonnie Balco and her baby brother, Joseph Barak Balco. In court, Bonnie Boyd admitted Beth Sarim had other residents, not just staff, but people living there full time. So if you thought this was a bachelor pad for a drunk old man and his secretary/girlfriend, think again. And what happened to Beth Shan? The property with the underground shelter and the goat barn? The sealed tunnel and cave system? Sold. Quietly. In 1948. Right after a few key marriages took place. Bonnie Boyd married William P. Heath in 1938. And after waiting a whole week for the ink to dry on his divorce paperwork, they literally swing by Las Vegas and do a quickie Chapel o' Love wedding. No known children reported between them, but all signs point to at least one pregnancy. Because even back then, Vegas wasn't that exciting. Bonnie Boyd didn't just marry William P. Heath Jr. She'd already handed off one child, maybe 2. Little Princess Bonnie, born 1929. Little Joseph Barak, born 1931. Both were raised as Balcos, the housekeeper and groundskeeper's children. But if Bonnie was mother to one, and possibly her sister, Jean Lenora was mother to the other, that makes this not just a secret family, but a bloodline operation right inside Beth Sarim. For this family tree, we've now uncovered another branch. Remember Eugene R. Black of the World Bank and Suzette Heath Black, William Heath Jr.'s sister, also had a secret son, William H. Black, born 1931. Fast forward 22 years later, he quietly marries Nancy Cowles in 1953. They had 3 children. One of them, William Heath Black, born in 1953. That name again? William Heath Black. By 1960, a young boy named Jeffrey Epstein appeared in the New York census, listed under a father with no known records before 1940. Seymour G. Epstein. The name sounded Russian Jewish. But what if that identity was a mask? What if Seymour never existed before the Watchtower needed him to? What if the boy we came to know as Jeffrey Epstein was never an Epstein at all, but a Black, a Heath, a Boyd? By the time Jeffrey Epstein surfaces in New York, he's already wrapped in the systems that trained him. Money, secrecy, psychological grooming, the very blueprint of control. But his origin? It wasn't some accidental zip code on the East Coast. It was California. The Canyon properties, the hidden homes, the bloodlines buried behind the garden walls. The question isn't who raised him. The question is who built him. And more importantly, what was he built for? They said Beth Serene was built for the princes and Beth Shan for their security. But the real heirs didn't wear crowns. They wore masks. And one of them, he didn't just grow up. He took the blueprint, built the island, and followed the plan perfectly. The trail doesn't end in San Diego. It winds through Utah, Arizona, and the desert corridor